right, meeting's called to order. Public portion of the meeting will begin. New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Business Administrator, Board Secretary, has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. Clavijo?
Here.
Ms. Goff?
Here.
Mr. Paluce?
Here.
Mr. Reicher?
Here.
Ms. Sanford?
Here.
Mr. Tortara?
Here.
Mr. Turco?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here. Would everyone please rise and join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. Persons participating via YouTube may submit questions through our Board of Education email address at Hawthorne, BOE, at hawthorne.k12.nj.us, which is available on our district website. When submitting questions via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. We will do our very best to answer all questions in the order in which they are received. If for some reason we are unable to answer your question, someone from the district will respond using the email address you provide. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. All right. All that being said, we'll jump right into our first public be heard agenda items only. Yes, Dr. Morell, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Alma Morel, 61 8th Ave. I had a question on the addendum CI-62. Are these services available for a specific school, or is that for all students?
So those services will be available for all schools. We're actually in the process of finalizing the details of how that will be shared. But there'll be a combination of after-hour support where parents can request or log into a Google Meet to access some additional support for students, and as well as some of our BSI services. So we're in the process of finalizing that, and we'll communicate that to parents as soon as it's all finalized.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I also had a question, again, in the addendum, BG-63. The information regarding the air purifiers, and maybe you'll speak to this later, Mrs. Garrido, in your report. Will this information be placed on the website regarding efficacy and whether or not where these air purifiers would be placed?
Yes. So I'll answer now. I was going to speak briefly about it, but I'll give you just a quick an answer to your question. So I can tell you that we have spent quite a bit of time looking at different options. As you can imagine, there are numerous options out there of air purification systems. We've toyed around with a couple different devices. Everything we've looked at, we've shared with our architect and his engineer. Fortunately, we've now found something that our architect and engineer feel are a good product. We're excited about the purchase of these devices because especially with the winter coming and not being able to leave all of the windows open as we do now, we felt that it was an important additional measure for the safety of our students and our staff. So I believe we ordered 228, or I have the actual number here, 228 devices, and I say, yes, 226, excuse me, 226. So I share that because there are certain rooms, the rooms that have univents and windows, these rooms will be placed in, they're basically plugged into a regular outlet. There are other rooms in our district that are internal classrooms without exterior walls or windows that are managed, the airflow is managed by a unit on the roof. So for those rooms, we've purchased different system, an ionization system that will be placed, it's a device that's placed into that roof unit. So that's a combination of those that are placed in the roof units and these units for the rest of the classrooms in the district. So everyone will have something.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is not really a question, it's more of a comment. I know this was, I was kind of surprised. I'm saddened, but at the same time happy. And while I never had the privilege of my children having Ms. Ponte as a kindergarten teacher, I do believe that this is a great loss for our district. But I am happy for her future endeavors. And I don't know if typically the board holds like retirement pronouncements or something, but, and I don't know if I let the cat out of the bag, if that was a surprise, but I would hope that we take the time to acknowledge Ms. Ponte and her contributions to the Hawthorne community. Thank you.
Mrs. Brito, any emails coming in for public to heard, agenda items only?
There are not any emails at this time, no.
All right, we are going to move on. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from the September 15th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Clavijo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Abstain.
Mr. Totara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. All right, going to move on to correspondence and reports, and our student council representative, Ms. Allison Harini. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Freedy, and I'm excited to be here meeting with you all and representing Hawthorne High School Student Council. With all that is going on during these unprecedented times, HHS has still managed to create an adapted environment that accommodates our students and finds creative ways to spread school spirit. This year, our student council is led by former Board of Ed Rep and current President Ava Tower. With new normals to everyday school life and binding regulations, fall activities from student council have been far from typical. Despite these obstacles, Ms. Russo, Ava, and our entire student council executive board have been working tirelessly to create some sense of regularity and student activities for the entire student body to enjoy. This included a successful homecoming ceremony at our first home football game on October 2nd. Students were able to participate in virtual voting for their homecoming court in both preliminary and final rounds, where they could elect their peers as winners via Google Forms. Our homecoming court this year was made up of freshmen Cormac Smith and Sophia Morell as Lord and Lady, sophomores Luca LaMonica and Leah Alves as Duke and Duchess, juniors Troy Ecker and Gabby Aliano as Prince and Princess, and our crowned homecoming king and queen were seniors Nick DeLuca and Maddie Doyle. The winners got to enjoy front row socially distanced seating in the end zone of our football game and were part of our halftime entertainment ceremony. Throughout the week leading up to our homecoming game, students in all cohorts were encouraged to wear blue and white to show off their support and school spirit. The Student Council has also ordered new merchandise for our school store, including a restock of bestsellers such as our classic white crewneck, as well as new staple items including gray long-sleeve shirts and black jogger sweatpants, all of which show off Hawthorne Bear pride. Students will be able to purchase these items in the near future on afternoons in which the school store is open that can be found on our school's Instagram page. In addition to new clothing sales, the Student Council has been collaborating and brainstorming new fundraisers and activities in the near future. The HHS Library, led by Media Specialist Mrs. DiGeronimo, has started the year off with a variety of opportunities for all grade levels and cohorts. All incoming freshmen were introduced to the HHS Library via video. They explored the resources and materials available to them through the library website, the library virtual classroom, the library Google Classroom, the HHS Digital Library Catalog, and Hawthorne Public Library digital resources. Students who completed the given 5-step activity, showing their understanding of how to access these resources, were then entered into a freshman library raffle. There will be one winner in every freshman English class, and those winners are then entered into the grand prize drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. The library is still open for all students through the library Google Classroom, where students can continue to have access to information, lunchtime workshops, book talks, book reviews, guidance, support, and so much more. Hybrid students who are in school are also welcome to stop by the library and scan the QR codes to access many of our resources, including digital magazine, books, and games. Outside of the student body at HHS, the library's outreach has further extended this year. The library website now has a dedicated parent page offering tutorials for online learning, sources of digital books, HHS news, library portals, guidance for at-home learning, and much more. Additionally, all teachers were given the library services menu with an invitation to seek help and direction when navigating the new hybrid remote learning model. Library Media Specialist Mrs. DiGeronimo recently earned the Level 2 Google Educator certification to help teachers and students adjust to online learning. Furthermore, the high school library continues its collaboration with the Hawthorne Public Library. Students and teachers were encouraged to get a card online through the Bergen County Cooperative Library System, which gives our students access to the academic databases they need to effectively complete their schoolwork. Throughout the school year, the library will celebrate the diversity of our school community through displays, announcements, featured books, and online activities. We began the year celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th, and are now highlighting National Italian American Month in October. Lastly, in library news, beginning October 19th, the board is offering students and staff information, activities, and lessons highlighting privacy and security, digital footprint evaluation, news and media literacy, and cyberbullying as part of our Digital Citizenship Week. In Bears sports news, fall sports successfully began on October 28th. Fall sports teams open their seasons with the Senior Appreciation Night to recognize and thank seniors for their dedication to our fall sports programs. Kicking off the season, the girls' tennis team has started with a 2-2 record led by Coach Bean. The boys' soccer team led by Coach McMahon has played tough and began the year with a 0-0 tie against Eastern Christian and 2 losses to Pompton Lakes and Glenrock, with a recent recovery as they picked up their first win last week facing Butler. The girls' soccer team has begun what is proving to be a dominant season with a 4-0 record and wins against rivals Pompton Lakes by a score of 3-2 and Glenrock by a score of 4-1. The football team has started off their season 3-0, tacking on wins against New Milford, Saddlebrook, and along with Saturday's recent win against rival Pompton Lakes. The broadcasting and technology departments were able to successfully live stream the home football games on our district YouTube channel due to the limited seating availability of the games in person. They will continue to do so for future home football games and would like to thank Mr. Small and Mr. Manketch as well as their student assistants for making this viewing possible. The athletic department also received a very generous donation of customized Hawthorne Gator face coverings for all of our teams, including the marching band and coaches from the Athletic Booster Club. This will keep everyone safe while demonstrating Hawthorne Bear pride. We thank them for this donation and for their concern to keep all of our teams, band, and coaches healthy throughout the season. The athletic department would also like to thank all of our fans for continuing to mask up and following proper protocols at the games to ensure success and safety as the seasons progress. That will do it for our October recap and report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allison. All right, Mr. Sprito, Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you very much. I have quite a few things here to go through, so just bear with me. First, I want to welcome Ali Perini, our student rep, to her first meeting. You did a great job in your first report, so welcome. Look forward to hearing more about things happening here at Hawthorne High School as we get started, as we continue into this school year, I should say. So, and on that note, just briefly get into phase 2. As the board is aware, and our community is aware, our parents, that we released what our phase 2 guidelines will look like beginning on November 9th. I will share that, obviously, we would love to have all of our students back in school all day, every day. But we have to consider the factors that are being shared with us, not only by the Department of Health, by our own school physician, and obviously in communication with our teachers as well. So we've put together a plan where our elementary students will be back 4 days a week, 4 half-days a week, with Wednesday being a full remote day. And our Lincoln Middle School and Hawthorne High School students remaining on the hybrid schedule, but now we'll be providing a live streaming option on the days when they are not in school. At least that will provide them the opportunity to participate in live instruction each day with their teacher, whether they're here in the building or working from home. Again, I know that this is not an ideal setting. Allie and I were having this conversation before the meeting. But again, we have to consider everyone's well-being and safety as we move forward. I did share in my letter that we will continue to evaluate the circumstances, the current COVID rates and information that we receive from our Department of Health. And as things hopefully begin to improve, we can move forward with some additional in-person instruction. And it won't necessarily have to wait until the next marking period. We are willing to adjust as needed, and when we feel that it's safe to continue and move forward with some additional in-person instruction. Due to the fact that we are bringing students back, more students back at the elementary school specifically, we did purchase desk shields for every student in our district. They should be arriving this week. So every student at our elementary school will have a desk shield on their desk. And as was mentioned earlier, we have purchased air purification systems for our classrooms, and a combination of air purification systems depending on the classroom where it's located. Again, as the year began and the warm weather, it allows us to open our windows and leave them open. I will tell you that we are going to continue to leave some of our windows open even as the weather gets cooler. So I would encourage students and teachers to dress in layers because we will still be providing some fresh air into those classrooms. I'm not saying all the windows will be open as they are now, but we will still be leaving some of the windows open as we move forward into the cooler weather. Okay, a couple of other items. Open house, I just want to mention, typically this time of year we're scheduling our open house for the high school. Obviously we can't hold an open house as we typically do. I can tell you that we are working on a possible virtual open house that we would share with our parents and community. It's really unfortunate of all the years that we're not able to have it. We have these beautiful new classrooms, not just here, but at Lincoln Middle School that I would love to show off to our parents. So we want to make sure that that information does get out. We'll be sharing some more of that information as we go forward. And again, we are working on something that we could share virtually with our 8th graders and really all of our members of our community regarding Hawthorne High School's open house. I want to comment on something that Allie commented on about our fall athletic and sports teams and all of our student athletes that participate in the fall, whether it's our football, soccer, tennis teams, our band, our cheerleaders, all the students that are participating. Just want to congratulate them. Obviously this fall has been anything but routine. And I think they've done a great job. And outside of wins and losses, obviously it's nice to be successful and to win. But outside of that, I just, I can't thank our student athletes and our coaches enough for the work that they're doing to provide a safe environment and allow our students to participate in these teams. And again, whether it's again, football, soccer, boys and girls soccer, tennis, band, cheerleaders, so on and so forth, all the teams that are participating currently. So great job. And I also want to comment about our live stream. Got a lot of compliments about our live stream of our football games. A lot of people are really enjoying that live stream, and I'm sure as the weather gets cooler, more people will be enjoying that live stream. So thank you to all those who Allie mentioned who were making that possible. I want to update the board and the community on our Diversity Alliance Committee. Back in June, really in July, we created a Diversity Alliance Committee, which is made up of board members, administrators, parents and community members, and former students currently. We had 2 meetings over the summer. We held another meeting early in October, on October 5th. We met to interview some prospective companies to assist us with our work as this committee moves forward. We interviewed 3 companies during that meeting, and the group was unanimously in support of the Institute for Anti-Racist Education. We're really excited to begin a partnership with that group, with Ashley Lipscomb and Brittany Spatz, the 2 leaders of that organization. Dr. Tribona and I have been in communication with the Institute for Anti-Racist Education. We're finalizing the details of our partnership with them. I've already shared some information with them in regard to some data from our school district. And we'll be scheduling our next meeting, hopefully for early in November, to begin this work with them. I can share that, there will be opportunities for students, teachers, and parents to participate. We're going to be putting together a survey that will go out to different surveys, one for students, one for teachers, one for our community. We're also going to be holding focus groups at certain points throughout the year. So, there is a link on our webpage, on our district webpage, at the bottom of our district webpage about this committee, and we're excited about moving forward and the work that we will do together. I will add that although we didn't have teachers on the committee to this point, I recently reached out to the members of our Teachers Association, gotten a lot of requests back for teachers who are interested in participating, and we will be adding teachers to the committee formally in the next, hopefully for the next meeting. So again, with that said, I'm looking forward to the work that this committee will do. It's a wonderful group of stakeholders from our community, and look forward to our work together. 2 other things I have to share in regard to annual reports. One is our annual graduation report that I'm required to share with the board and our community. So basically this report from the Department of Education, it asks that districts share annually numbers from our previous year's graduating class, and it includes the total number of students graduating the prior school year, the number of graduates who met the graduation assessment requirements by passing a substitute competency test, by passing the portfolio appeals process, or meeting an alternative requirement specified in their IEP. And finally, the number of 12th grade students who were denied graduation and how many of those were denied solely due to failure to meet the graduation assessment requirements. So for those who are not aware, there are graduation requirements for students here at the high school. There are different ways that you can meet that requirement. Could be through a state test, our NJSLA test in language arts and math. Could be through an SAT, ACT, Accuplacer, PSAT, or something called a portfolio appeal process. And there's a whole chart that the Department of Ed provides for us. All right, so just reporting out the numbers that we're to share with the board, the numbers from last year's graduating class. So the total number of students graduating the prior school year was 188 students, which was 100% of our student population from last year. The number who passed by the NJSLA state testing, ELA and math, was 73 students. Numbers of students passing multiple pathways, including NJSLA and a substitute test, was 55 students. Students passing a substitute competency test, again, like the ACT, AccuPlacer, ASVAB, those things. 48 students. We had 7 students pass through the portfolio appeals process, and 5 students who met the alternative requirements specified in their IEP. And finally, the number of students who were denied graduation or failed to meet the requirement was 0 from last year's class. Okay, so that is that. And the second report I will share with the board, which is actually an agenda item tonight in regard to our HIB self-assessment. So each year I'm required to report to the board not only the self-assessment that is completed by our administration, which determines our HIB, our grade for our district, but also the numbers of our what's called our Student Safety Data System report, which includes numbers of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons offenses, and HIB incidents. So I'll start with this report regarding the HIB self-assessment. So again, during the month of September, the administration and school safety teams in each building completed the required comprehensive self-assessment of the building's programs, initiatives, and procedures for investigating and reporting. The self-assessment process included the gathering of documentation to evidence the ratings provided. And this self-assessment, it consists of 8 core elements, each with 2 to 5 indicators that are reviewed by this school safety data teams. Districts could receive a score of, and they have to score themselves, between 0, meaning they did not meet the requirement, all the way up to 3, which exceeds all the requirements. The 8 core elements are HIB programs, approaches, and other initiatives. Number 2, training on the Board of Ed approved HIB policy. Number 3, other staff instruction and training programs. Number 4, curriculum and instruction on HIB and related information and skills. Number 5, HIB personnel. Number 6, school-level HIB incident reporting procedures. Number 7, HIB investigation procedures. And number 8, HIB reporting. So all 5 buildings did score above the 50 points required to meet the state requirement in this area. The elementary schools received scores of 72, 69, and 75. 72 at Jefferson, 69 at Roosevelt, 75 at Washington. Score of 71 at Lincoln Middle School, and 62 at Lincoln Middle School, and 60 at Hawthorne High School. Okay. In terms of areas that will be targeted for next year, there are 3 areas that we're focusing on in regard to next school year, or this school year. Continued training beyond the required 2 hours for all students and staff on our Board of Ed approved HIB policy, as well as preventative strategies for students and parents throughout the district. Increased communication, training, support, and guidance for our school anti-bullying specialist and the school safety teams by our Director of Guidance and School Counselor, which will be implemented in this school year. And finally, increased sensitivity and wellness training to staff and students specifically related to diversity and inclusion. And this will include a district-wide advisory committee, staff training, and student program. So that gives you an overview of that report, our self-assessment report. And then finally, actually there's one other thing after this, but the other item that I want to share is just numbers in regard to our school safety data system numbers. So there's 2 reporting periods, September to December and January through June. So today I'll be reporting on the numbers from last spring, January through June of 2020. And the total number of incidents last spring, the second half of the year, were 0 across the board. So 0 incidents total, 0 incidents of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons, and confirmed HIBs. For the year, the total for the year, which includes September to December and January through June, we had 6 total incidents, 3 incidents of violence, which again could be simple as a fight, 0 incidents of vandalism, 1 incident of substance abuse, 0 incidents of weapons, and 2 confirmed HIBs for last year. And finally, as we know, the month of October, we celebrate the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. The Week of Respect was back during the week of October 5th through 9th. And this week is, October 19th to 23rd, is School Violence Awareness Week. And there are activities during each of these weeks in our schools related to the Week of Respect. Activities include resolving conflict peacefully, managing anger, including presentations. Obviously, this year was a little bit different, a little bit more difficult. Normally, we have our police department and we get outside speakers. A little more difficult to do that this year, considering the circumstances that we're in, so that schools did the best they could to incorporate some of these activities in their classrooms. And finally, this week, again, similar situation, but the School Violence Awareness Week, our activities geared toward the awareness and prevention of school violence and bullying. And again, normally we have assemblies and different programs that address these particular issues. A little more difficult this year, considering the circumstances, but we will do the best that we can to incorporate some of those activities into our lessons this year. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spirito. Abby, please take us through curriculum and instruction.
Sure thing. Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommend the following resolutions. CI 1 through CI 3 on page 4, CI 4 through CI 14 on page 5, CI 15 through CI 20 on page 6, and CI 60 through 62 on page 19 of the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Mr. Spirito,
Yes.
I think I know the answer to this, but the CI1, is that the marching band trip that we spoke about in committee? I think I
No,
had the
so,
date wrong.
that's a good question.
Oh, okay.
So we spoke about one in committee, that was a late addition. It was supposed to be scheduled at Ramapo High School. Ramapo unfortunately canceled that event because they had from what I understand, someone test positive, so they canceled all their sports, which was supposed to be this past Saturday. That's why the band actually went to the football game. This particular one is tentatively scheduled at Wayne Hills. It has not been approved yet by Wayne Hills, but I just said to our band, once again, normally our band would have had numerous competitions at this point. They haven't had any, obviously, considering the circumstances. So I told them that we would approve it, and if it happened, that they would be permitted to go. Same group of schools that will be attending, there's only 4 schools. They are following all the NJSIA guidelines, and that's one of the reasons these 4 schools agreed to do it, because all of these schools are following the same guidelines. Everyone will be socially distant. What I mean by our team will be socially distant from the other 3 teams. And, they'll follow all the protocols that our athletes and our student athletes are following. But right now, it's not officially happening. It's tentative. And as long as they approve it, our students will be able to attend, but I can't say that they're definitely.
Okay, I thought maybe that was the one I had written in my notes, but just had the date wrong.
No,
From the committee.
it's
Okay.
a different one.
And I have a second question on CI 60.
Yes.
That tuition, is that higher than a gen ed tuition? Is that
Yeah, it's a
ed?
special ed
Okay.
student, which is why it's higher,
Okay.
which is why we have to approve the additional monies, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Trevino?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Tutara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Abby, back to you for personnel.
The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Regretfully, I start with P21 on page 6 through P22 on page 6. Carrying over to page 7, P23 through P33. Carried on to page 8, P34 through P43. Carried on to page 9, P44 and P45 on page 9 as well. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Abstain on P37 and P38, yes to everything else.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Tutara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Alex, please take us through finance and administration.
Absolutely. On Finance Administration, on page 9, we have the acceptance of a donation. Acceptance of a donation of $2,000 from New Era International Inc. to be used for the Hawthorne High School English Department. As always, thank you for your generous donations over the years. Action items, page 10, pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions: Act 46 through Act 51. Carrying over to page 11. Page 12. Page 13, we have 852 to 853. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford? Yes. Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Tanya, it was your lucky month. Please take us through claims.
In accordance with NJAC 6A:23-2:11B, C3, and C4, I did review the bill list for the month and am recommending that the board approve to pay for the month of October.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Reicher?
Abstain from vendor B600, approve of everything else.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Reservation on any bill for Northern Regional, yes on everything else.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Plus?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Abby, we're back to you for policy, please.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommend the following resolutions. PO 55 on page 14. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Ed.
I won't bore everybody with the details. Mr. Sperito did share the policy info with you guys, but I will just highlight of the 15, there were several that were new, so I'd like to just take a moment to go over those. We have P 5330.05, the seizure action plan. This requires the parent of a student with epilepsy or a seizure disorder to submit the student's seizure action plan on an annual basis to the school nurse. The seizure action plan is a comprehensive document provided by the student's physician, advanced practice nurse, or physician's assistant, which includes information regarding the student's seizure history and treatment. The school nurse will then develop an individualized healthcare plan. An individualized emergency healthcare plan for the student provided to the parent of the student will be done annually. We also have policy 1648, the restart and recovery plan, which is something we've heard about monthly since the start of COVID, but it has been revised to incorporate the new face covering requirements, transportation and critical care, screening, PPE, response to student and staff presenting symptoms, in addition to reference the student face coverings in critical care areas, classroom testing, therapy rooms, critical care area of operation, student flow, entry, exit, common areas, NJDOE guidance does not need to be included in the policy. So as things evolve, the policy is evolved as well, but we just keep reapproving it. P1648.02, remote learning options for families. To ensure clarity and consistency in implementation of such full-time remote learning, the remote learning guidance requires boards of education to adopt policies that address at a minimum unconditional eligibility for full-time remote learning, procedures for submitting full-time remote learning requests, scope and expectations of full-time remote learning, procedures to transition from full-time remote learning to in-person services, reporting and procedures for communicating district policies with family. And P1648.03, the restart recovery plan, full-time remote instruction, school districts that determine they cannot provide in-person instruction must submit documentation to the Department of Education. That includes, among other things, a date by which the school or school district anticipates resumption of in-person instruction. Those were the new ones.
Thank you, Abby. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Doyle, before, real quick, I'm sorry,
Sure.
if I could just add, just to update the board too, we received, our school physician has given us guidance and actually added to our standing orders for that seizure action plan.
Okay.
So he's provided the guidance we need for that, to implement that right away. Just wanted to update you guys on that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Sotero?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Anthony, please take us through buildings and grounds.
Thank you. Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions on page 15, BG 56 through to BG 58. On page, carries over onto page 16 with BG 59, and then on the addendum, BG 63. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sotero?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes on BG 63 with reservation on all other resolutions.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to our committee and liaison reports. Alex, please start us off with Finance and Administration and New Jersey School Boards.
Sure. New Jersey School Boards Association this week is the remote virtual workshop. There is a cost associated with it. Everything is remote. Moving on to our Finance and Administration, we had our in-person committee meeting last week. Included in the meeting discussion was the audit update. At this point, the audit is not yet complete, but we have an idea of what the figures are for the leftover funds from the 2019-2020 year. The unused funds are about $750,000. That will make its way over to our reserve accounts. $400,000 for a maintenance reserve, bringing the total to $1.2 million. And $550,000 will go to the capital reserve for a new total of $1.7 million. Next was the discussion of refinancing of all bonds. It's on the agenda for a second time. It's at 51. That was our loan resolution. As reported last month, we are going to refinance 2011 bonds. The term will not be extended. However, due to lower rates, there is a projected savings of about $150,000. So we're going to be able to benefit from the lower rates that exist at this point. Next was additional extraordinary aid. $64,000 was received in addition to the funds we received in the summer. We received some money in the summer from this additional extraordinary aid. And in addition to that, we received another $64,000. Last but not least, we discussed the coronavirus relief fund grant. What was made available to us was $146,355. These funds, this grant was maxed out. These funds will be used for the reported acquisition of the death shields of the air purifiers. Just as a reminder, the COVID-19 funds available to us include this coronavirus relief fund grant. We also have access to the CARES money and also FEMA. Trudy has submitted what we think we can get reimbursed from FEMA, and once they approve it, they'll let us know how much of that will be refunded our way. That concludes my report.
Nothing for New Jersey School Boards?
No, just that they're having, this week is that virtual remote week that they're hosting. There is a fee for it, but it's all virtual, given the circumstances.
All right, thank you, Alex. Referendum Committee, Mr. Sprito touched briefly on the referendum items. Our referendum projects are moving along very nicely. Several of them have been recently completed or just about almost completed. A lot of the projects touch on and fall into buildings and grounds, so I'm going to defer to our Buildings and Grounds Committee. Anthony will give us an update later So we'll move on to Abby for curriculum instruction and policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The CNI committee met at 5:30 on Tuesday, October 13th. The first order of business discussed was the Phase 2 transition. At the time, I won't bore you with details again of what Mr. Sprita was already shared, but at the time, the administration was not aware of a start date because there were still so many things in play. So I would really like to thank them for making it come to fruition and nailing down a start date. I know the public definitely appreciates that ahead of the deadline to secure the spot in the remote or the hybrid. The second thing that we discussed was the fact that, and I'm not sure if Mr. Sprito shared this, but the MD classes will be coming in, the students are coming in 4 days per week. STEPS we wanted to do that for that program as well, but it was paused because of a slight uptick in numbers. LLD is being considered for 4 days per week. The consideration now is busing, that's the logistical issue there. And additionally, as Dr. Morrell spoke about the CI 62, the committee spoke about BSI and additional supports. Mrs. Tribona came up with some very creative ideas to offer extra supports to our community. Mrs. Tribona proposed an extended day for targeted BSI instruction that would be title funded possibly. Also, this teacher on call model was discussed. Office hours, as they're calling it, for those families who need help. Adults can be involved in that, parents can be involved in that, so they can help, understand what really is being asked. Secondly, we discussed the fact that CUSAC has officially put us on notice for a visit, I suppose that's what it's called. So between now, which will be created, I volunteered on behalf of the board to be on that committee. A board member is needed. There was talk of, over the summer, some legislation that CUSAC would be put off for this year, but that has not been signed by the governor as of yet, so we are going full steam ahead until we hear otherwise with CUSAC. Third, we were updated on Piker Learning. There are 3 certified trainers at HHS. Ali mentioned one of them. Mrs. Tribona has utilized them now as peer mentors and support, so they are actually working for the district. They're logging their hours and they're being compensated for their time through CARES Act and title money. An example of a stipend for that position would be 96 hours of work would be a $4,800 stipend. The 3 certified trainers are logging in 10-minute increments, so they're really utilizing their time wisely. They're helping people district-wide, so it's not just people in the building, because I believe all 3 are here at HHS, but they are helping people district-wide. And the idea of an instructional coach was brought up at the meeting, and that is definitely something on a budget wish list for the future. Mr. Sprito updated the committee on the diversity committee that he gave the same update to the board this evening. The next meeting will be in November. We spoke about the band trip that did not happen. And the end of the meeting, I'm not sure if they did, but there was a walkthrough of the culinary and physics and STEM lab. I was not present in person, I was virtual, so I'm not sure if they were able to actually walk through those roles. And as for policy, I have nothing, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Anthony, take us through HEF, CPAC, PTOs, and buildings and grounds, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to start by saying, to the PTOs, several PTOs invited the 5 Board of Ed candidates to speak at their meeting, so I just want to thank them for that. And tomorrow night, if anybody's interested in hearing what they have to say, you can go virtually with the high school and, again, hear where they stand on their issues. Moving on to CPAC. We've been talking about it for a long time. The Ronald McDonald House pull tabs, we've been saving those. This year's numbers are going to be ending on October 30th. So if you could get those in, and the awards and things will be handed out for who collected the most. We'll continue to save them because I think they're going to start up again with the new school year. They'll continue to save those pull tabs. I just want to mention 2 other events that if you go to their Facebook page, I think you can find the flyers. They have, have two events that are coming up, not from them, but they're just promoting these events. It's a Zoom for birth to 5 years old on October 24th. I think it's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's, again, virtual, and it's for family caregivers, professionals, and families with children with special needs. Again, that's from ages birth to 5 years old. And then a second one is going to be held on November 12th. That is for the opposite end of the spectrum, which is students transitioning webinar. Again, that one's hosted by the Family Resource Network. So if you want to have any other information, either go to their website or again, go to Facebook for the Hawthorne MJ CPAC and get additional information. Moving on to HEF. HEF has partnered with the Hawthorne High School PTO to raise money for students. We started the HEF and HHS PTO Wheel of Education, which can be found on the Facebook page. I encourage everyone to like and share the page. We raffle off large prizes on Sunday nights. All profits go directly to HEF 1 week, and the following week the profits go to the Hawthorne High School PTO. It's lots of fun, and the best part is that it's all virtual, so you can join. Moving on to buildings and grounds. I don't know if anybody's driven by Roosevelt, but there's a big temporary trailer in the back which is used for heating purposes. The boilers have been installed at Roosevelt School. However, there was a few final parts that were on backlog and created some delays. The temporary heat, from what I understand, it's fenced in, it's safe, and it's been operating efficiently. It's fairly quiet. And if you actually see it, it's pretty amazing. I thought it was amazing. They just tapped right into the school system. The heat's running outside, and it completely takes care of the school. That cost, the extra cost, is actually being picked up by the contractor because the delays were because of some parts that weren't in yet. Moving on to water softening system. Right here at the high school, we had a water softening system put in. We're considering the same type of units for Lincoln Middle School, Roosevelt, Washington, and Jefferson. This could preserve the plumbing fixtures as well as the new boilers that are being installed. You have to figure if we're spending a lot of money for new boilers, to have a little extra maintenance and take care of the units moving forward. You could get a couple extra years of life out of it. That's obviously our goal. Hawthorne water is very hard, so I think it's a necessity. So again, we'll be reporting on that more in the future. Moving on to bus inspections. Typically, bus inspections are done, I believe, in June, but because of COVID, they were delayed. So we just recently had our inspections, and we're happy to report that all buses are inspected and have passed. Good news. And moving on to some referendum items, it's my understanding that as of today, all the referendum rooms in Lincoln School, as well as here at the high school, are accessible, and hopefully we'll be using them in the next few days. But again, they are accessible, and everything looks good. We got to walk through some of them, and I find it amazing, especially the culinary with the cameras and the overhead, camera that's going to be watching the teacher perform, and the students can just sit at their desk and watch on the big screen of how everything is prepared. I think that's awesome. Bear Cave also is open now. It's a great space. There's some pictures online, so if you have an opportunity to go check that out. And moving on to our last item here, which is personal PPE, personal protective equipment. As mentioned by several other committees tonight, we have purchased 2,400 U-shaped foldable desk shields that are going to be for each student. Each student's going to have one on their desk. The cost was, I believe, $24,000. That cost was covered by the CARES Act funds. And we also purchased 226 HEPA filter air purifiers, which Mr. Sprito and Mr. Clavijo has mentioned. And again, those funds were also the CARE Act funds. And I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Anthony. Tanya, what's cooking on the legislative front?
So I don't have any new legislative updates, but I do have two things to mention. At that virtual workshop for the New Jersey School Board Association that Alex mentioned, tomorrow at 1 p.m., October 21st at 1 p.m., I'm sorry, from noon to 1 p.m., it starts at noon, there are going to be a legislative panel discussion with Senate President Stephen Sweeney, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, Assembly Republican Leader John Bramnick, and Senator Stephen Arroyo. This session presents a valuable opportunity for board members to hear the latest news from the State House. Following introduction, the New Jersey School Boards Association's Director of Governmental Relations will moderate the question and answer portion of the session. Among the likely topics are state budget, school funding, education in the age of COVID-19, the new health benefits reform law, and other recent enactments, and what to expect from the legislature in the months ahead. So if anybody is interested in that, the information is on the School Boards Association website. The other thing I wanted to mention was that on Friday, the Secretary of Agriculture announced that the USDA is extending the child nutrition waivers that allow schools and local programs to continue to provide free meals for students. Through the programs, free meals are available to children at more than 90,000 sites across the country. The extended flexibilities allow local operators to use the two programs, which are the Summer Food Service Program and the Seamless Summer Option, to, at no cost, permit meals to be served outside required group settings and mealtimes, waive pattern requirements, and allow parents and guardians to pick up meals for their children. So again, this is extended now through June 30th of 2021. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Tanya. Marco, anything to report as it relates to the town council?
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to my review of the October 7th council meeting, the only item to report pertaining to the Board of Ed and our students is that the annual mayor's Halloween parade has been canceled this year. The mayor had posted references on the borough's website from the Department of Health pertaining to trick-or-treating, which can be found at the website www.hawthornenj.org. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Marco. Lou, anything new with Passaic County School Board?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you, Lou. All right, we'll move on to our second public be heard portion. Just as a reminder, when submitting questions or comments via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. If those items are omitted, we will not be able to entertain your questions or comments. Thank you in advance for that. So that being said, public be heard. Anyone? Come on up.
Alma Morel, 61 8th Ave. I just want to say how excited I am, and really a congratulations to the board and to Mr. Spirito and administration with moving forward with the referendum. My daughter, who has culinary, has been itching at the bits to get into that classroom. And the pictures, thank you so much again for sharing those pictures of the rooms. They look great, I guess, through the internet. I can only imagine to what Mr. Palou said, actually getting a chance to walk through the rooms. So I do know you have some excited kids getting ready to go in there. So I just wanted to commend you on that. I also want to commend you that's so smart about the water softener. I've purchased that for my home, and I hope it's saving me. So thank you for that, for saving our boilers, as those are expensive. Mr. Spirito, I had a question. If you could please talk a little bit about the devices that are being utilized for live streaming and the professional development offered to the teachers on how to utilize live streaming and the instructional practices.
So we're using a combination of devices. Right now, we purchased a number of document cameras that are, we've tested them with some of our teachers. They seem to, I mean, even though we haven't used, some teachers are actually employing them right now, but the ones that we purchased seem to be working very well. So we'll be using a combination of document cameras and some of our Chromebooks as well. So it'll be a combination of the two. Some teachers are using, all the teachers in the middle school, high school have a brand new Dell laptop. All of our elementary teachers have their own Chromebook, but we're actually giving them, in some cases, a second one, if they're not getting a document camera, in order to live stream and still have a device to work from. So that's that piece. In terms of professional development, that's all, in terms of how they're handling the live streaming. That's all being done through the school. I mean, the schools are working, the administrators are working with their teachers in their own schools on that. I can tell you that it was mentioned, I think Ms. Goff mentioned it in regards to our Google certified staff with Google Meet. There's been a lot of kind of ongoing conversation and training that's been happening with those 3 people, helping teachers, even not just live streaming all the time, but even on those remote Wednesdays of being able to work with students remotely. So there's been a lot of discussion regarding that since the beginning of the year. So the biggest challenge right now is getting everyone comfortable with these new webcams. That's really our document cameras, I should say. That's probably the biggest challenge right now, is making sure everybody's comfortable using that. The Chromebooks themselves, I'm not concerned about.
So is the document camera like focused on the, because when I think of a document, I'm thinking like the Elmo device, it's called Elmo, I really don't know what it's
Yeah, same, yeah.
But that's usually just the paper, like is it, are students really seeing the teacher as he or she writing on the board or talking? Like,
Yes, so the way it works is, and I actually was there at Lincoln Middle School when they tested it. So we purchased these document cameras that literally stand straight up and face, so it's almost like a camera. It has a camera and a microphone built into it. We bought 30-foot cables so they can plug it into their device, their laptop, but they can have it sitting right in front of where they're instructing. So the students who are home will see and hear them right in front. It'll be in front of the other students, so the other students won't be in the view, kids in the classroom, but they will see and hear the teacher while they're instructing in their classroom.
Okay. If I may suggest that you, perhaps Dr. Tribona or your other instructional leaders, speak with other districts in the county who have been utilizing live stream for lessons learned. One of the 2 primary concerns about live streaming has been, through no fault of the teacher, forgetting about the students who are at home, and then as well as the issue of actually the noise, the sound, the ambient sound. So those are 2 concerns that have been raised from other school districts that are still trying to work out, any issues that they're encountering. So I would just encourage that, whether that's perhaps through the county curriculum consortium or reaching out to those particular districts, just to, no need to work in a silo,
No, of
lessons
course.
learned from other districts. And then you said the PD was just ongoing with the teachers with that?
In terms of the live streaming,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we don't have any scheduled professional development days this year because we, in essence, traded them in to put in some days up front. But that's one of the reasons that we've encouraged these Google certified people to work with our teachers. They seem to be more tech savvy, more on board with some of this technology, and they've really been helping a lot of people. And the nice part about it is kind of as needed. People reach out to them, they provide support. I mean, it could be go walk down to your classroom and help you. It could be we jump on a Google Meet and I help you. It could be, obviously most of the time it's after hours. The majority of the time it's after hours that they're doing this. But it's kind of been ongoing because we don't have any scheduled PD time right now, really until January. There's no, because again, we had a day scheduled in October, we gave it back for a day in September. So we don't have any other days that we can allot to that particular.
Yeah, I know that's tough, and I think it's a, again, no fault of the situation that we're in. But just, I really cannot stress to supporting the teachers. This is a different instructional model that requires some different instructional strategies. And if support can be provided to them, whether it's job embedded or coaching, I know the schedule is tight, but I cannot stress to you the importance of providing supports to our teachers to do that effectively. And I know that they've been working really hard to do right by our children.
Yes.
My last question, and I'm sorry I ran over time. Ms. Engel, if you don't mind, and you may not have this, so I might have to email you. Given that if there is an opportunity for all of our students to receive the breakfast and lunch, the meals program, do we know if there's been an increase in use of these services? How many students are actually taking advantage? Because honestly, I argue with both my daughters all the time to get food and they just ignore me. So I don't know, there's other students who may not be taking advantage of these available resources.
So, I don't know the number in front of me, Mr. Guido, do you have that number?
I don't, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is, at the last meeting I had reported, and I don't have any updated numbers today in front of me. This was, at our last meeting, we had fed 300 students in that particular day.
So, so those students that want the meals obviously can go into the system, can order the meals, okay, and then they're getting breakfast and lunch when they leave. The remote students will come in on Tuesdays and Fridays and get them.
Okay. I guess for me, it's just, I want to be sure that we really are making a concerted effort of reaching out to families to make use of this, because 300 students and how many students are in the district, that's a very low percentage. So, thank you.
Yeah, I would just share with you, I can tell you, I've been down there a few times. I actually helped hand out lunches a couple of times myself. I will say that one of the things that we're seeing is that people are ordering and not picking it up in some cases. We've had that leftover lunches. I mean, I can just tell you from being there myself. But we can look at what an updated number.
And that number of people not picking up is getting better as well, because we started calling families, because since they're able to order without having to pay for it, so people are getting better with picking up the lunches.
Yes.
Plenty of parents do call the office asking, like, how do we do the application and things like that. So there are people participating in the program.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Erica Mulkey-Colton, 236 Lafayette. You actually delivered our lunches the first day we started. It was mayhem, but I was like, wow, superintendent's delivering our lunches? This is great. So yeah, good job. I just have a quick, first of all, I want to say that my youngest at Roosevelt has been live hybrid from day one, and it has been amazing. We haven't had any problems. I mean, granted, our service, you know, we lose service or the meat goes down, whatever, but the instruction he's getting, he's learning, and he's doing well, and he's enjoying it. And, you know, he's a boy, it's hard to sit still, but he's doing really well. So I have to give a lot of credit to our elementary teachers. I can't wait to see it in the high school and the middle school, because I feel like I have one in each.
Yes.
The other two aren't getting, it's a lot of, you know, teaching themselves or me having to do it, which isn't so easy when it's chemistry in the high school. I have no idea what I'm doing. So the reason we didn't do that earlier is because of the technology and the cost. And I know a lot of things are on back order, right?
Yes.
I
We
figured.
just got the document cameras, last week.
Right.
Like, we were waiting for them. We ordered them and.
I know
It
everything
was
is
back
back order.
It took months to get them, months.
Okay. So will teachers be required to do that in the middle school and high school now? Will they be required? Is it mandatory, or is it like still optional if they want to
it's
go live?
mandatory. You mean when the students are home?
Yes.
They will be live streamed in, it's mandatory. Everyone will be doing it.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was like an optional thing to
No.
still figure it out.
No.
Good. The PPE, the flexible U-shaped
shields,
that
yes.
Anthony mentioned, they're like the clear plastic flexible ones that you can take down and wipe off.
Yes.
So have you thought about how you're gonna manage, like, would you assign a student one so they're not sharing and touching or
So,
taking their mask
yeah,
off?
so yes, we've talked about a couple things. Right now, the elementary schools are gonna get them immediately because they're gonna have more students coming in. And let me just, if I could backtrack for a second. Ideally, we wanted to do the same at the middle school and high school that we're doing at the elementary school. The challenge is, with elementary students, they're self-contained, they're in one room. You know, they can be at their desk with their shield all day, and we can clean it at the end of the day.
Right.
When you get into the middle school and high school, as you know, kids are traveling, and what we're currently doing, and Ally will attest to this, that they're cleaning between every 2 periods, the rooms are being cleaned.
Right.
So if we bring, because what's happening, because there's a small number, the first group comes in, they sit at certain desks, they leave, the next group comes in, sits at opposite desks, and then they clean it before that third group
I
comes
see.
in.
Okay. that makes
But to try to do that every period, it's just too much to manage.
Right, especially
now.
while the kids are in the building, you can't.
Right, and now,
Backpacks, right.
of course, that also increases our numbers of kids in the hallways and bathrooms, and, you know, it just increases our numbers in general. So that's why we, for now, and I'll add too, that, you know, we all know that the numbers are increasing in the state.
Right.
So we want to be cautious, cautious as we move forward, because what I don't want to do is jump into this and now we end up being remote. You know, I mean, knock on wood so far, the kids have been great, the teachers have been great, everybody's cooperating with our procedures, our parents as well, and, you know, I think that's what's been able to allow us to continue to move forward in the way we have, so.
I agree, the way you guys have come together and done this, a lot of other districts are closed or closing. So I appreciate you being on the cautious side, because I don't think it would be open right now if we just, okay, everybody's half dead. You know, I don't think it would have worked, so.
So, yes, so the goal is that going forward, middle school, high school, everyone will be required to live stream their students in
Great.
on the days when they're not in the building.
All right, and then the other half of the day, they're doing the work or whatever coincides with that lesson we just did with.
So you're gonna actually get a schedule, they're tweaking the schedule right now, middle school and
Okay.
high school, because the one challenge that we're facing is there are teachers that are shared between the two
Right,
buildings.
right.
So right now, they're tweaking, and by tomorrow, you should be getting an updated schedule from the middle school and the high school in
Oh,
terms
great.
of exactly how it's gonna look. So it might be a little bit different, you know, what they're doing in the afternoons and on
Right.
Wednesdays, but you're gonna get that.
But we'll have a schedule to make sure our kids are showing up to the right classes.
You will get
and
something tomorrow
Okay,
from the middle school and the high school.
terrific. That answered like 3 other questions.
No problem.
I know, I mean, the 26th is the deadline, right?
Yes,
October
to
26th
choose full
for
remote.
students to, if they want to come back.
Or go full remote, either
Or
way,
whatever.
either way.
Right.
Correct.
So I'm sure this is probably premature to ask, but considering Roosevelt, let's say, had so many students in the classroom before, if that number does get higher, do we have the room to put these kids in with social distancing if, let's say, they come back? Let's
Well-
say even 90%.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now that if all the students come back, we would not be 6 feet apart, that's a reality.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that we bought the desk shields, it's just another layer of protection for all of our students and our staff. You know, we're gonna do the best that we can to keep them socially distant,
Right.
but again, as you said, and that goes for all of our schools. I mean, some of the teachers, we took some of the furniture out of their rooms to try to spread the cat a little bit,
Yeah.
and we're doing the best that we can, but I can tell you that if all of our kids come back, all of them, in every building, they would not be
No.
6 feet apart.
So, okay, so the dust shields, with those,
Mhm.
what is like what are the guidelines? Can they be 3 feet apart then at that point?
The way that the guidelines were rolled out, the road back document that we received, it said that you should socially distance to the best extent practicable or possible.
Okay,
We've been able to do that because we've been hybrid, half the students in, we've been
Right.
able to do it at all of our schools.
okay,
But again, depending on how many kids come back, and I just don't know that. I mean, I can tell you, there haven't been a large number of people so far, and we have a little time still,
Right.
who are choosing to come back. We've
well,
actually
we're
had some
close
people,
to the cutoff, so.
we've actually had people choose some of the opposite, that they're gonna go remote because the winter is
numbers are
coming,
going up,
and
right.
they're just concerned about other illnesses, not just COVID, but
Well, yeah,
the
flu.
flu and then whatever
Yeah.
else. So I don't expect the numbers to change drastically. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
we haven't seen that, at least so far.
Okay, that's great. My last question sorry.
It's okay.
As far as substitutes,
Yes.
this is hard because
Yes.
let's say, hopefully, knock on wood, nobody gets sick. But if a teacher has to take off, which happens, substitutes are really struggling. They don't know how to share a screen or how to do the hybrid, or do we have subs that are willing to come in and who actually know what we're doing to take over? Because I don't know if I could walk in a classroom and take over.
So it's a very good question. So what we did when we started the year is we reached out to some of our people who are regular subs, and we asked them to just be permanent subs in our buildings.
Perfect.
For a couple of different reasons. Number one of the concerns I had was I really didn't want a lot of different people coming in because I didn't know where they were the day before.
Right.
Were they subbing in another district? Were they not? So we tried to secure people that would be there every single day in the building so that they were like a permanent sub for our schools. We were able to get 2 people who were willing to come to the high school. We had 1 person who agreed to do the middle school. The elementary school, no one who was on our current sub list was willing to do it. So, to be honest with you, how we've been handling that is we've been having other teachers cover their classes and paying them for that period
Right,
to do that coverage, to cover those
like
classes.
during prep or
Yeah,
whatever time.
and, you know,
Okay.
doing the best we can with the people that we have.
that are
in the building.
familiar in the school. Okay,
Yeah, that's really how we're handling it right now. You know, we tried, that was one of the things we tried when we started. The other thing that was actually on our agenda tonight, we've contracted with 3 different companies, Swing Education, Horizon, and Staffing Plus. We contracted, not this, Staffing Plus and Swing Education, we had a contract with previously. This year we added Horizon to try to get some additional subs.
right.
Even with that, we've
It's
struggled to get people. It's just, there's not a lot of people who want to do that right now.
So, I've seen other districts
Yeah.
who have, and I'm not suggesting you guys do this, but
Oh.
basically like doubling what they're paying substitutes to get them in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of more money than the teacher makes at some of these places, but if you think about it, they're, you know, putting their lives at risk, just like all of us are and all the teachers are. So I don't know if I would do that financially, but, you know, that's an option that others are doing.
Yes.
So that makes it a little bit harder for us too, because then we have to spend more to get a sub.
Right.
So, because it is so competitive now.
Yes.
All right, last question, I promise, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
I noticed that there's been a little bit more activity with the high schoolers outside, which is nice, the weather's been great, but maybe not making great choices. For example, riding bikes in the middle of the street, playing chicken with cars, like things like this, that I didn't notice before or read about in the paper before, maybe it was just me. I feel like the environment and the negativity on the media, you know, social media, the news, all this, and COVID, and not being able to really go see their friends or do the activities that they were doing before, would you consider adding maybe some sort of mental health elective, or I know we can't do what you were saying before, like week of respect, the kids, you would have guest speakers come in, or like, so now they're not getting that. And we're going through a really tough time. It's hard on me as an adult, let alone a teenage boy. So maybe, I don't know, like if we did a Zoom where we had a guest speaker, I can't say my son would attend unless it was mandatory, but something, you know, to work into the curriculum, not like a positive behavioral thing, but more mental health side of it. I don't know if you noticed, but like in the paper and on the news, it's all over Facebook. Like my child, one student dumps my garbage everywhere, and you know, it's just.
Listen, here's what I'll say. You know, there's a lot of challenges right now, and one of them, and this is one of the reasons that I'm glad I thanked our students who are participating in fall activities. There's just not as much going on as there normally would, right? Clubs. I mean, there's a million activities that would have happened in this school alone with the block party and hallway decorating and just things that kids would be engaged in and participating in here at the school or the middle school or, you know, different clubs, different teams. It's unfortunate that some of those things aren't able to happen because I think that's a benefit to our kids to have those things. Unfortunately, there's only so much we can do. I agree with you. We need to look at some other alternatives. I can tell you, Ms. Weger, who is our Director of Guidance here, who's fantastic, she's trying to put some things together. I've been sharing on our Restart page just some newsletters that she's put together.
And I appreciate like the guidance you send from all the schools, not just the high school.
Yeah.
But to get like my kids to do it on their own,
Yeah.
or even maybe like, let's sit down and do yoga
Yeah.
and deep breathe. It's like, so I don't know, some way to work it in, so like, hey, you want extra credit? Let's do some yoga and breathe together or something.
Listen, it's a
To
good
give
thought.
them a little, you know, there's gotta be motivation and reward behind it, otherwise it's like,
Okay.
what, more work?
No,
you know?
it's a great thought, and it's definitely something we're talking about, we'll continue to talk about, because I agree with you, it's unfortunate that we're not able to do, and even in town, I mean, you know, there's no
Right.
rec sports, there's
Nothing.
you know, it's almost fall, it just is what it is right now. And
Right, and the weather's gonna get colder,
Yeah.
and they're gonna be in, and that's my fear, is things are gonna get worse.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate it, thank you.
No, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Spirito, how are we doing in the virtual world? Our viewers at home, anybody email
We
us?
do have one question from Sally Riley at 62 Alexandria Avenue, and she's asking about the parts for the completion date at the work at Roosevelt School, the boiler work. Drew, do we have at the date of completion, we
Waiting
don't.
for the part and everything.
Yeah, unfortunately, the reality is, and this is true for all of our referendum work, a lot of the things, a big part of the delays for referendum work were just parts that were delayed, and it's because companies in other states are closed. And for example, we haven't received countertops in certain rooms because the companies that were in Texas were closed. So they're behind and they're just getting those parts to us. We're waiting on those parts for the boiler. There's 2 parts that we're waiting on. And as soon as we get them, they're gonna install them. And you know, the truck, the trailer that's there will be removed. I'm hoping it's soon, but I can't give you an exact date because I just don't know. It just depends on when those parts arrive. You know, again, back to our referendum rooms, the rooms look great, but there's just some small finishes that are not done just because of delays in getting those products. We were able to get kids in there for now, but we're just waiting on those things to come. So as soon as they come, we'll get them installed, and hopefully we can get that trailer out of there ASAP.
Any other emails?
No, sir.
All right, I think we can move on from our publicly heard portion. We are going to move on to old business. Lou, I'll start with you. Any old business you'd like to discuss?
I'm good, sir, thank you.
All righty. Marco, any old business you want to discuss?
No, sir.
Tanya?
No, Mr. President.
How about you, Bruce?
Nope.
Anthony, any old business?
So thank you.
Abby?
No, thank you.
Joe?
All good, thank you, Mr. President.
And Alex, any old business?
Yeah, I do. The walkthroughs were mentioned in the reports. We had the opportunity of seeing some of the new makeover rooms. And, you know, it's just, it's very rewarding to see the final product. You know, a combination of countless hours of board, administration, prior board members. You know, at some point it was just conceptual, and it turns into a study, and then campaigning and trying to get the public to come on board. And just seeing the final product, you know, on some of these projects is just very rewarding. Just also, you know, highlights the work that's been done thus far, you know, these last couple of years. As it was mentioned, it's a team effort, including, you know, superintendents delivering lunches. It's just a unique situation we have here in Hawthorne, and it's very rewarding to be part of it. So I just wanted to cue that in.
Thank you, Alex. I'll come right back to you. Any new business you want to discuss?
I wanted to welcome our school board rep, Allison Perini. It's exciting to have a high schooler part of, you know, being part of the board. You guys bring a different dynamic to it, so welcome. Wanted to also congratulate the broadcasting and technology team for the great job they're doing with the football games. We were having a discussion before the meeting here how what a great job they did on Saturday. I wanted to ask Mrs. Burrito, as far as the, you know, once you start live streaming the classes, will there be any difference between hybrid and live at that point? Is it going to be identical instruction?
They'll be streamed right into the class with that teacher. So the student, they'll be, if the cohort A students are in the room, the cohort B students will be at home. They'll all be seeing the same, be participating in that same class and in the instruction in that class.
So then at that point, they're going to have the same identical instruction. Are there going to be any differences?
I mean, listen, there's going to be a learning curve because I'll tell you one of the challenges, and you know, it goes back to Dr. Morrell mentioned it, but the reality is, you know, it's different when you have 20 students sitting in front of you and you're engaging with them, and now you have maybe 10 students in front of you and 10 students on a computer.
Sure.
So there's definitely challenges that go along with it. I can tell you in speaking with some of my superintendent colleagues who have done or have started to live stream, there's definitely some challenges that come with it. But I just feel like, or we, not just me, but administratively, we felt that we need to have these kids being part of that instruction every single day. My own boys, you know, who are here at the high school, you know, they're struggling only being in school 2 days and not having that live instruction every day. They need to have that. I think all the kids need it. Again, I ideally would like to have everybody in the classroom, and I'm hoping to get there at some point, but I think this is our best option right now.
No, that's very welcome. And from a curriculum point of view, they're gonna have, it's the same instruction at that point, it's very differentiation. You know,
When you say the same curriculum for the kids at home and the kids at school, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yes, 100%.
You know, and then, on that note, you know, I'd just like to finish by, thanking the administration, the staff. I mean, as you can tell, there's a gazillion things they have to worry about with COVID. And, the normal course of action, QSAC, the audit, that doesn't stop. So it's that in addition to, learning more than you probably care to know about air filters and purifiers and desk shields. So, thank you for everything you guys are doing.
It's my 28th year this year, and there's things that I never thought I'd be talking about, that we're talking about right now. So definitely a different year for sure.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Joe, anything new that you'd like to talk about?
I'd just like to congratulate Ms. Ponte on her retirement. She has been an absolute asset to this district and has touched countless lives and will continue to do so in her next endeavor. I wish her nothing but the best and good luck in your horseback riding.
Abby, any new business?
Yes, sir. I would also like to echo Mr. Carr's sentiments. Both of my children had the amazing privilege to have Mrs. Fonte in kindergarten. She's truly irreplaceable. She's leaving very big shoes to fill, but I totally, as Dr. Morrell said, understand her second act and wish her all the best. I would also like to congratulate Mr. Sprito and all of the administrators on the 100% graduation rate. I know that seems silly, but that's not always how it plays out. For reasons outside of our control, the way they calculate it sometimes doesn't always make sense, but that's great to hear, despite that being amidst a pandemic. Additionally, again, thank Mr. Sprito and the administrative team for formalizing the Phase 2 plans and getting that out to the public ahead of the deadline just as soon as they knew. Basically, we knew only a few days before the public knew. And that's hugely important. As Ms. Mulkey-Colton said, my son doesn't do anything that's not mandatory. So on off days, if it's optional to go into a class, he doesn't. So this is hugely important to everybody to get that out there. And to echo Dr. Morrell's sentiments, and I know that you know him, Mr. Sprito, my superintendent where I work, Mr. Fortis. We've been using the document cameras very effectively since day one for the purpose of live streaming alongside the students in the class. And they did push out a video to the whole staff it was a mini PD just in video form. I'm sure I can get that for you if you don't already have it.
Ms. Dever has created one as well for our staff.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, that was great, succinct PD that they watched on their free time and that they just were able to incorporate into their classroom. But I can attest that the document cameras have been working very, very well. Honestly, it's one of the better technologies. Like, it doesn't fail when everything else fails. So, but just thank you for all that you guys have been doing, and thank you to the staff and the community for the patience and the flexibility as we continue to just adapt. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Anthony, any new business?
No, I'm good. Everything seems to have been said. Welcome, Allison. You did a great job tonight.
Bruce, new business?
Yeah, just a couple of things. In my school, we have the in-class and live stream at the same time, and it is not easy to do. We even have extra teachers who help with the live stream, and the teacher might have 10 people in front of her or him, and then someone else is doing the live stream with another 20 to 30 kids, and it's very difficult to do, especially with the audio to get it correct so the students at home can hear. And I've been doing this for 26 years, and it's like you're starting over, because no one has ever taught where you're doing live streaming at the same time as teaching in front of students. We even use a product called DiNow, where the teacher who's doing the stream can see what all the students are on, and they're spending most of their time telling kids to get off of YouTube or other sites they're on while the teacher in the classroom is teaching. So it's a tough situation. We're making the best of it, and everybody's doing their best, but it's like everybody's out of their comfort zone of you have the kids in front of you and then also the kids that you're streaming to. Second thing is tomorrow, I'm not going to Atlantic City, but I will be presenting at the school boards, Remote Learning 2021 and Beyond, tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, with Barry Haynes, who's a curriculum person in Ridgefield Park and also a Board of Ed member. And so that's tomorrow at 10. And the final thing, to echo everyone else's thoughts of teachers, students, parents, like, everyone is doing fantastic, and the word that's not thrown around, but used a lot in the education circles, and it's a good one, is just like, have grace, like, for them, because they're doing the best that they can, they're going above and beyond. I know, all of the educators are doing more than they ever did, before, and everything is new. So, they're doing, the best that they can, same with the students, and same with really the parents at home, especially of elementary students with childcare issues, is almost impossible. Not difficult, but almost impossible to get to the right place at the right time, with them. So thank you, everybody, for doing a great job, and that's all I have.
Okay, Bruce. Tanya, any new business?
Just, not to drone on, everybody said everything, so I'm just gonna quickly just say thank you from me to the administration, to the teachers for all their hard work and helping these kids navigate these times and helping each other navigate. And also, on a personal note, 2 of my 4 were lucky enough to have Mrs. Ponte, so I agree with Abby. Those are very big shoes that needs to be filled, and we're gonna miss her here, but wish her luck in her new endeavor.
Okay, Tanya. Marco, anything under new business?
Sure, again, a lot of people have already mentioned a few things, but just to also congrats to Ms. Ponte on her retirement, and also to welcome aboard Allison, and looking forward to her future reports.
Lou, any new business?
Just 2 quick comments. One on the governor's edict this past week about public meetings and limiting the capacity to 25 people. I, for one, will not be opposed if we ever go back to virtual. For the main reason, A, things seem to be upticking. B, one of our jobs is to minimize the number of strangers and people that enter our buildings. So I'm just saying, if it comes down to it, I, as a fellow board member, I would not be opposed to, for safety's sake, going back to virtual. Secondly, yes, with Ms. Ponte, I've come to know her over 20 years now. She is not only a wonderful, wonderful human being, an incredible educator. I know the number of people, many of you sitting here over the years have asked for her, for your children, for good reason. But she's going to do well in her future endeavors. I mean, in her own spare time, she's built an incredible business, it seems, that one of my grandsons has partaken in. And I just wish her all the luck in the world, and we're certainly going to miss her. And a welcome to Allison. Thank you.
All right, I don't have any new business, but there seems to be a category here that a lot of us seem to forgot about. General comments and questions from the board related to the school district. It seems like most of us have already said all that already, so I'll go ahead and say what I have to say.
Why don't you do that, Mike?
What's that?
Why don't you do that?
I think I'm done. First, I'm going to put my glasses on. All right, I want to thank the broadcasting crew and Tamer and all of his assistants doing a great job live streaming the games. Honestly, I'd like to hopefully maybe see more of that. Maybe we can branch out somewhere down the road and do some of the other sports at some point, some of the other varsity sports anyway. But great job. Good to hear that we're going to do something for virtual for our open house projects. That's great because we absolutely need to showcase our finished projects there through the referendum. I too also want to extend my congratulations and somewhat sadness to hear that Ms. Ponte is leaving, but of course we wish her all the best. Truly going to be missed. And I think that's about all I have. Moving along, Mr. Clavijo, anything else?
No, sir. Good, thank you.
Mr. Carr?
No, took care of new business.
Abby?
Mr. Reicher, I just want to let you know that I don't know if it's a district-wide thing, but my son has been told they use Dynow or Dino in the middle school here as well, which is super cool.
Oh, cool, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's district-wide. Mr. Sweeto, do we know if it's a district-wide thing, that the screen monitoring?
Dynow, yeah, we're using that.
Yeah.
I
So the
didn't-
teachers have an extra bag, an extra tool in their tool bag to like monitor what's going on those remote days.
Parents can do
I don't know.
I'd like to sign up.
Yeah. That's it.
Good, okay. Anthony, anything else?
Oh, good, thank you.
Bruce, anything else?
Be kind to all the teachers.
I like it. Tanya?
No, but maybe one day I could get a definition of what new business is, old business is, in general comments. But no, nothing new for me.
Lou, I think you said you were, I'm sorry, Marco?
We gotta let him go now. Go ahead, Lou.
What I was gonna say is I hope everybody goes out and vote,
That'd be nice.
okay?
I think a lot of people have voted already, but yeah, they absolutely have.
Yeah, I know, well, continue.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get another ballot, don't be afraid,
Oh,
as some people have.
oh, yeah.
No, seriously, I hope everyone goes out and vote 2 weeks from now.
Thank you, Lou. All right, Marco, you get to end it all.
Yeah, just continue to echo some of the other sentiments is just that I really appreciate everybody in the district, teachers, administration, students, parents. I can't say enough. Personally, I can tell you that it's been trying for all of us, as we all probably have experienced with our own children. But I'm so grateful to everything that the teachers and administration have been doing to keep us going. These are trying times. They're unusual, and just really appreciate everybody's efforts ongoing, and I'll continue to say that until this is over with. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marco. All right, we have no items to discuss in private, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Covino?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Paloof?
Yes.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Tutera?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Absolutely.
Mr. Carl?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.